Don't quit when you don't pass the audition, when you're told no, because if you quit when you're told no, when you're told no, when you're told it's not your time, not you right now, if you quit then, it was never your dream to begin with. Welcome back to the Samantha Show. I'm your host, Samantha. You can call me Sam, just don't call me Sammy. And I'm here with a good friend of mine. We go pretty far back. It's crazy how much time has passed since we first met. But I'm here with Michelle Thompson. She is an attorney, and I want to talk to her all about what it's like to be a female, a woman, as a lawyer in the law industry, all the challenges she has faced, all the amazing things that she's done, and all of the great wisdom that she can offer to our fellow ladies out there who are interested in getting into law. But one little fun fact I have to share real quick, which we didn't even touch on in our little pre-conversation, and I hope you don't mind me saying, is that Michelle also lives with type 1 diabetes.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. I thought you were going to say that I fought at fight night, and I got really excited because I was going to be like, yeah, I did. But yeah,
I would like to.
not
She
as
did.
excited.
No, actually, fight night is better, and I actually low-key forgot about that, so I'm glad you brought that back up, too. We just need to, rekindle, I think, and remember all the great things.
Yeah.
We were on the women's board together. You were on the Dayton Children's Women's Board, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You did. You boxed because you're like a baddie like that. There was no way in hell I would ever do that, but I was like, here, I'll help, decorate and be on the event team. You can box.
It was in the middle of my divorce, so it was like, I had it ready. I needed the motivation.
Little de-stressor here on the opponent there. That's right. So much fun. So Michelle and I, we actually go way back, and we're connected through nonprofit world and networking and all these things. And now you are up in Columbus, Ohio, right?
That's right.
So Michelle, we call her Mish. Do people still call you Mish?
Not out here, really,
Okay.
no one, but my in-laws do, everyone from home, everyone but my parents and my coworkers. And actually, my coworkers think it's really weird. They're like, what?
It just
Meat?
rolls off my tongue now, so
Everyone, yeah.
I'm here for it. So I may refer to you that throughout the show. But go ahead and tell me, Michelle, so formal, tell me what you do as a lawyer, the type of lawyer you are, the firm that you work for, just a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I am a business litigation lawyer. I actually more of just a business lawyer. So I handle businesses in preventative litigation, anything from contract disputes. If somebody, for example, we represent retailers. If someone slips and falls in a store, I'll defend the company on that. But I also do a lot of real estate and transactions and kind of just anything related to a company. So it's usually defending them. But my favorite part is actually if I need to help them recover money. So if someone runs into the building or there are shipments that are lost or stolen while they're usually paying when we're defending them, I like to bring in some money. So just across the board, mostly represent businesses.
And what made you decide that you wanted to get into law? Is this something you were always interested in? I mean, as far back as I can remember through our conversation, I feel like this was just kind of always something you wanted to do. But tell me a little bit about growing up or what inspired you to get into this field.
Yeah, so I'm a first-generation lawyer, which is really exciting, although I'm not sure that Jaden will take that route. We watch a lot of medical shows, so probably a doctor. But I've wanted to be a lawyer my whole life. Didn't even really know what that meant. So my mom worked, I'm from Chicago, so she worked at the clerk's office in Cook County, one of the many courts in Chicago. So she worked at the clerk's office, and I laugh because I'm thinking of a funny memory, but my papa used to take me to pick her up from work, and we would go walk around, sit in the courtrooms like it could have been a murder trial for all I know, and we'd be sitting there. But I just remember seeing the judge and the attorneys and take over the courtroom and make these arguments. And I guess since I was 6 or 7, my dad would say she hasn't lost a case yet, and no one really knew what that meant in my family, right? They think of the show Suits, and that's what they think being a lawyer is, but it's not. And I didn't know what it meant for a long time, but I've been building my resume since I was in 6th grade, which just reminded me of what I forgot. So good. I'm going to write that down.
You make that note, and then we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
Yes, we're going to come back.
That's the lawyer, and you make notes as we go, I'm sure.
I will never show you my desk, just so you know. I'm not joking.
Is it just covered in notes and little
Yeah, it's so bad. Like papers everywhere.
So tell me, Michelle, what was it like to enter the legal field? So you say that you've been working on this resume forever, but you go to college, then you have to get into law school. You get into law school, you have to take the bar exam. What was it like that process and that hustle to even get into the law field, the legal field initially?
Yeah. So I've always wanted to be a lawyer, and I always made sure I kind of needed to keep that in mind, even though I went to Arizona State for a couple of years, had a lot of fun, did a lot of really dumb stuff, but always had to kind of remind myself what my end goal was. And so even while I was doing that, having a great time, I made sure that I was joining organizations, which should be no surprise to you. I started that stuff literally in grade school. So when I was in college, both at Arizona State and St. Xavier in Chicago, I really just started taking on leadership roles. I mean, I was a secondary ed major in English. I eventually dropped the education. I did that in the event I didn't get into law school. And I actually think that I did that because I was so afraid I wasn't going to get in. You know, I did have my professors in college at St. Xavier were probably the ones that helped me realize you're fine. You're going to get in. And what's the worst possible thing that happens? You don't, and you have to come back and take a semester to get your class. It's not a huge deal. And so I eventually dropped the education. And I would say my professors were really the main example. I don't think my friends and maybe even my family really like had the best faith in me at that time. I can't say I blame them. Like I was always a good kid and got good grades, but I was also like kind of an idiot. Like I would say more of an asshole if you need to bleep that out, but like I just
doesn't that make you a good lawyer? Aren't lawyers supposed to have that edge?
That is true. We'll talk about that later, but I don't know. I was just like a dumb kid like you should be, right? Like I think you should be, and I turned out fine. So, but I think a lot of people didn't think I'd make it. And so whatever, I worked really hard. The LSAT was hard. My ex-husband was in the military while I was studying for the LSAT, when I took the LSAT, and actually when I started law school. So he was in, where was he when I started law school? He was in Afghanistan. So I didn't know a single person. So I went to law school at the University of Dayton, moved from Chicago, and did not know a single soul in the state of Ohio. Which was really, really hard.
Yeah.
I moved in with his roommate that my parents wanted to kill me. It was real weird. And then I just kind of built a family mostly around the admin at the school and like the staff. Then a couple friends that I was really close with. And I just I think a lot of people didn't know that I would make it because I went out there on my own, first generation lawyer, didn't really know what I was doing. And it was nice to kind of prove them wrong, to be honest. But yeah, those were some of the kind of immediate challenges going into it.
Why do you think you doubted yourself early on? So, you did say that eventually you found that confidence through the encouragement of your professors, but where did your skepticism come from initially where you're like, I better have a backup plan in case I don't get into law school?
I think just never having the confidence in myself that I should have had. And I think high school is where that started for me. I played travel basketball and travel softball and played these sports, and I got cut from the teams in high school, both basketball and softball. And that'll be for another day. I'm sure some of my friends will watch this, but yeah, that's where I think it came from. And then just some little things, like I ran for president and didn't win. It was just little things that when you're a high schooler, they feel like they're so big. And so actually I got cut from the basketball team. I got cut from the softball team and didn't win president all in the same year. And it was like, I'm just failing. I'm not going to be able to do this. I think I only applied to 3 colleges and I got into all of them. So I was thinking law school, but even law school, I wasn't getting into schools, and all it takes is one. I got into a couple, all it takes is one. But I remember getting one of the last I didn't get admission letters until I got all of my rejection letters. And it was devastating. And so I just, I failed. And then eventually I got in. And so that was fine. But yeah, probably just years of failing, but got back up.
You got back up. And I'm so glad that the school you chose for law school was Dayton, because it brought you and us together as a connection. Yeah. But I think you're so right in that. We face these challenges. And I think too, high school is such an impressionable age. And then it's after high school, you're supposed to make these massive decisions about your life. And you're coming out of high school with levels of insecurity if things didn't go your way. And I often reflect back on some college cheerleading tryout situations and stuff that created created a lot of self-doubt for a lot of time before, really stepping into that confidence. So I think there's a lot of truth in that, and it makes a lot of sense. I want to talk a little bit about you being a female and a woman in the legal field. And I'm just going to read off some stats that I found. Look, I got them off of Reuters.com. I got it off of abovethebar.org.
Those are great.
Or
those
American.
are great places to check. Those are really solid organizations. Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I found really interesting is that it says in 2023, women made up 56% of the law students. So they actually outnumbered men in women being interested in pursuing and going to school for law. But what I found really interesting is that even though all of these women, and actually there are right now, from what I can tell, 53% of the associates in 2023 women. However, when it comes to leadership, partners, only 28% of partners of law firms are women, which is the highest it's ever been. And when it came to highest paid attorneys, only 2% are women compared to men. So it's
wild.
Fascinating to me that women are like, we want to be lawyers, but they're not comprised of the leadership. And I think that's so representative across so many fields. However, are we sharing your role?
Yeah, let's do it. You share it. Do you want me to share it, or do you want to share it?
You are the 28%
Woo, woo!
of partners at a law firm, which is amazing. So
New news. That's brand new. Not even announced by my firm as of this conversation.
Let's make it 28.1% of the partners are women now, because you have joined the club. You are now sitting at the table. But why do you think, or what do you think are some challenges that women are facing trying to work their way up within a law firm?
Boy, can I tell you stories. I was actually thinking about it on my drive-in. Which story or stories I would love to talk about. Well, I guess what I'll start with is the first firm that I worked for. And, many of them are still mentors to me. I talk to them. They taught me how to be a lawyer. They taught me how to get into the courtroom. I mean, they're excellent. But the one thing that was huge there is that I think there were only 2 women at the time I started, and none of them were partners. And so I remember thinking, do I want to be a partner in a place like this and sit around the table in front of a bunch of white men? And that's not to say anything about that firm. Like, that's the standard at many of these firms. I have friends right now who are sitting as associates in these firms where it's mostly a bunch of white older men sitting around the table making decisions about their lives and their business and their future. And I didn't see myself long term at a place like that. And it wasn't because of that firm. It was actually, the bigger stories come from people opposing counsel. I won't use this guy's name, even though I really want to. I think I'm going to. I think he would appreciate it if he ever heard it. Okay, so first year associate, you get the bottom of the barrel cases, and which is great. I got thrown in the fire to be in the courtroom, and a lot of people with you that you're not always in the courtroom anymore, especially in the type of law I do. I'm hardly ever actually in the courtroom. But okay, Larry Lasky. He represents landlords all around Dayton. He wears like a trench coat. He's an older guy. Fucking Larry Lasky, right? So I go up against him. No one warns me about Larry Lasky. No one. And he just constantly berates me on the record. I was the Dayton Bar Association's Rising Star of January or something like that. And he goes, well, Your Honor, this rising star here didn't realize that blah, 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 blah. And I'm like sitting there thinking, like, I look at the judge who doesn't even blink an eye, older white man. I'm like, all right. Then I, just make my argument, whatever. It's fine. Same guy. I'm representing 2 tenants who did a bunch of work on the property for his client, who's the landlord. And they did like thousands and thousands of dollars of work. And I am telling him, Larry, I have all of the receipts. Okay, so show up to the hearing, and my clients aren't there yet, and I'm ready to kill them because they're not there.
Let's go.
And he takes a receipt out of his pocket and gives it to me. He said, here, throw that in the pile with your client's made-up receipts. And I'm like, we get in front of the judge. My clients still aren't there. And I'm like texting them, like, where the fuck are you? And then so they come running in. They have a shoebox full of receipts. full shoebox full of receipts. And I'm like, oh, Your Honor, like, I apologize for the delay. Here they are. We do have the evidence. We are ready to proceed. We're ready to go. We'll try the case now, even though I probably wasn't ready to try the case because I had never seen these actual receipts yet. But as part of my advice down the line, you fake it till you make it till you do.
I'm here.
And Larry Lasky, so, Your Honor, can we take a break and talk about settlement? I'm like, I don't know, Judge. And then we took a break and we settled the case. So after, I would say, several interactions with Larry Lasky, several similar to that, and I beat him, or we settled, he started sending me clients. And so it took a while, but it was like interactions like that, which I should have never had to deal with. And I can promise you he was not doing that to young first-year male attorneys. It just wasn't happening. And so many, sweethearts. I had an opposing counsel in the middle of a deposition call me a witch on the record. And I don't even do anything for him to say that. But I was like, listen, I've been called much worse. I can promise you that. So can we just please move on? And my client to have noticed it and talk about it after the deposition was so embarrassing for me. The fact that I had to stick up for myself. He wasn't like berating me. He was just calling that guy an asshole. But still, like, I had to witness that. I had to be in that situation and just be able to keep going, to not let it affect me in the moment, because then he wins. And, a lot of people, I really do fake my confidence. I'm confident even if I'm not confident, because if I don't show that, then you're going to get destroyed by old white men. I'm sorry to even say that, but it's just the reality.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And, one thing that you had really mentioned that I've heard even in situations, it's like this term sweetheart or witch or whatever that is, belittles or devalues you or makes you, it's so intentional. I think women hear it all the time, regardless of field. But to your point, to have to deal with that in a place of law in front of a judge where like you've clearly earned your place there is just mind blowing. So I've that was kind of one of my questions is like, have you felt underestimated and how did you handle it? So what I'm hearing you say is like, you have to kind of shove it down and play tough to find that level of respect. I mean, is that really how you do handle it? Are there any other ways that you kind of try to deal with it? Do you ever get to bark back and, defend yourself? Or then sometimes you're kind of like throwing stones at someone, like, I don't know, that makes sense. But how do you handle those moments?
Damn well I'm barking back.
I know she is.
Sometimes. Okay, so yes, sometimes you just kind of have to shove it down. The one thing that I've learned, and this is harder to do after years of practicing and having many different clients and handling many different cases because the time is just not there, but especially your first 5 years, you need to be the most prepared person in the room. And sometimes that means working harder than the person on the other side, especially if it's a mediocre white guy who they're going to hear his argument and it's just they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. But I would be the most prepared person in the room. And that might mean over preparing and working more than I should. And the partner's having to cut my time to not charge the client. Yeah, that might impact me and my salary or bonus, but I have to do it because I need to be there to make the best arguments. And so for a long time, that was even now I try to be the most prepared person in the room. Because if I have no reason for them to put me down because I know how to bark back or what to say. And I know what they're going to say and what questions the judge is going to ask. You don't have a choice. But one thing that I thought was important, there are older women, female lawyers who have been doing this for 50 years. When I started networking in the Dayton area, I've had multiple judges, female judges just say, you just have to deal with it. You just have to put up with it. I hated hearing that. And sometimes it's true. You have to. But excuse my language, that is bullshit. I'm not going to put up with anything. I'm going to, you have to be strategic. I think in anything you do, whether you're dealing with in a male dominant industry or you're dealing with a client or you're dealing with the person that at a grocery store, I don't know, whatever the case may be, you have to be strategic and intentional in your actions. So when I sometimes have to kind of change my tone of voice where I'll be like, play nice kind of, and then I kind of go in for the bite or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't just have to take it. And an example I'll give is I have this opposing counsel on a case who was like pretty unprofessional before we got into litigation. And I wouldn't say necessarily unprofessional, but he just did things that, he's representing his client, whatever. Once we got into litigation, I had to do something to give my client the best argument, and he didn't like what I did. And he called me unprofessional and sent me this nasty ass email. And I wrote him back, like, you need to chill. And I really hope you don't act like this for the rest of the case, because it's not going to work out. Like, you need to. So I did bark back in that situation. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of like knowing, and it takes time to figure this out, but being strategic on how you answer and just respond. You can't control them. You can only control your own response.
I love that. And I believe so firmly in that too, is you can never change the way someone's going to show up or the things they're going to say or the energy they're going to give out, but you can choose how you want to respond. And in some situations that may mean rising above, but in other situations, it may mean proving them wrong. And in some situations, if it just feels right, it may mean going in, with something as low as like different situations call for different types of responses. And we always get to choose what that looks like. On the other end of the spectrum, have you had any mentors, either women or men, who were in your corner and they were like, no, you deserve to be here. This is how you use your voice. People who have supported you in this journey.
Oh yeah. Across the board. Some of those men that I mentioned in my first firm, they put a lot of trust in me. They were throwing me, like I said, into the fire right away because they knew I could handle it. Yeah. So even before I passed the bar, they let me sit second chair. The judge also let me sit second chair in the middle of a jury trial that we won. And he even let me help in the ways that I could as a non-lawyer yet, but that was really meaningful to me. Whether he really knows that or not, I've tried to tell him and thank him for his continuous mentorship, but he and his wife actually worked for both of them in separate jobs. But they put their trust in me, and whether it was about just who I am as a person or regardless of whether I was a woman or whatever, it was really meaningful to me. And there's many of those examples. But the one thing that I'll mention, just for not just me personally, so I'm part of this, or firm and myself are part of this organization called NAMWOLF. It's the National Association of Minority and Women-Owned Law Firms. And it's awesome. It's like one of my favorite things to talk about because they're just awesome people. But it's not just men. I mean, it's minority as well. But there are white men who are part of it, including some of my colleagues. And to hear them speak on panels, or to hear them, the point of the organization, I should say, is for businesses to find diverse law firms to work for. Because, I won't get into the whole DE&I thing, but we are merit-based. And they know that. And so they may be in a room where, we're not in yet. And so they're going to be with the decision makers and be like, hey, Michelle Thompson's a kick-ass lawyer. You should hire her, and put my name, in front of that person. And so that's not just for me personally, but knowing that there's people in organizations doing that's how we get there. So yeah, it's not just women, that's for sure.
It's great to hear that there are these organizations like this, and there are champions out here there who are trying to push minorities and women and other people upward in this industry. I think is so great. And you too, and we don't have to get into a big conversation of it, but I do want to touch on it because I think it's important when we talk about women. You are a mom, and a kind of a newer mom here, a year and a half. So, the one thing that women tend to sometimes juggle is motherhood and full-time demanding careers. And so how has that been balancing being a new mom, very demanding career, where maybe some of your coworkers don't have the same level of home responsibility? How do you navigate that balance and keep everything afloat?
Well, sometimes I have mom guilt, being away from home. Yeah. He is the cutest baby in the whole world. No offense, maybe I'm biased, but he didn't come from my body, but he's adopted. And so I feel like I can say that. So I'm very fortunate. I work for the largest women-owned law firm in Ohio. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, very
nice.
Cool. And so to work, I am found the place that women and people want to work for. Very, very fortunate of that. And so to give an example, our managing partner and owner of the firm, Sarah Perez, she has 3 kids. And so our firm was a lot smaller at the time, but she would have to sometimes bring her kids in because her husband had a pretty demanding job as well. And so she would have one of her oldest daughter who was a baby in the office, and she would tell us how if she had a client call her a meeting, she would just stick her out the door and someone would grab her daughter while she could take her call. we all, we would laugh about that, and I didn't witness it. I wasn't here yet, but I do that. And so I bring Jaden with me sometimes if I need to, if my wife has a meeting or a doctor's appointment or whatever. So sometimes he's running around here like a little maniac running in circles, but everyone loves him and they're helpful. And when I need them to be helpful, they're helpful. That is not how it is across the board. I am just so lucky. My wife is awesome and a rock star, and she works remotely from home, and which is very hard to do with a toddler, but she figures it out.
Yeah, that's tough too.
Yeah. So I'm also very lucky because with doing a demanding job, like I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute, but I also do a lot of like leadership things outside of the office or volunteering outside of the office, which is no surprise to you, I'm sure. And so it's hard to find time to do all of that on top of being a mom, but I just bring him with me to do things as much as I am able to and like when it's appropriate. And so it is not easy. My whole family, none of my family is in Ohio. And so
I didn't think so.
One thing that I do that I think is hilarious is when I have a flight for work, like a work trip or conference or whatever. Sorry, my contact's like falling out. I will take a flight that has a layover in Chicago at Midway, and I will only pack a carry-on for him and whatever. And so I will, even when I'm by myself, I fly to Chicago, I get off the flight, I go to the exit, I go to the, wherever they do pickups. Yeah. And I pass him off like a little football to like my sister.
The furthest point before you got to go back. You can't cross the line.
Yes.
Goes across.
Yes. And so I have to make sure I have enough time to get packed through TSA. Yeah. But he's on my lap for the flight. He's still young enough to be free. And so I drop him off, and then on my flight back, I pick him back up. And so like Steph can have a little bit of a break and get caught up on work and rest a little bit. And, my family will help watch him for a little bit. And so I'm very, very lucky. It's just funny when we do it. I think it's hilarious, but, so very helpful, firm, and home life.
They always say it takes a village, and I always sit here with cliche sayings, but it does. And I think it's wonderful that you work for a firm where this is so understood and supported. And when I even look back through my career, when I have worked under women, I have always felt more supported with that family work-life balance than when I work for men. That is just the truth. And I experienced that for the first time when I went and worked for JDRF, Breakthrough T1D, and had a female boss. It was the first time I felt an energy of like, if you have to leave to take care of something, there was like never question or doubt. And it was just always like, and I wasn't even like, I was pregnant when I started with JDRF. So I'm talking even before baby. It was just like, if you like have a personal matter that you need to handle,
take care of yourself.
We will give you time to handle that. And then historically, like almost every time when I work, even when I work for Cycle Bar and the education team leadership was all women, there was always this understanding of balance. It was like, get your job done, but if you got to rearrange your day to take care of your family, your life, like do it. Right. And so I think there's just this level of understanding in the world of women with how important it is to have that balance to be able to navigate life and knowing that we're still going to get our shit done. Like we are doers and movers and shakers, and we can handle multiple projects.
And it's not like there's never really balance, right? It's just a matter of prioritizing and having understanding, leadership or coworkers to help you find the best balance you can, because there's no balance. I'm not working 9 to 5, I'm working a lot more than that or different hours than that or whatever. So totally. The women in leadership, there need to be more of us, right?
Right. Well, I want to start to wrap this up, but you had mentioned that you were involved with other organizations outside of what you do for work. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about anything else that you're doing in your community that you want to share.
Yeah. So when I was in Dayton, I did a lot of board work or advisory or junior board work. A lot of it was working boards, in a lot of hands-on stuff. And so what I've really tried to have a very set kind of path and goal and type of volunteering I do, and that's developing youth. And so as part of some of the organizations I'm part of, I try to specify our philanthropic work on developing diverse youth and getting them, to the next level or teaching them. But what I also do that's very hands-on is Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I see her literally once a week, which is a little abnormal for the program.
You have a little?
I have a little sister, yeah.
I did that when I was in Florida. That's amazing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know
when I lived in Florida. I know. I didn't realize that connection.
She is a riot. I love her. We are meant to be paired. Like, she's hilarious.
Amazing.
And I'm hilarious. So, like,
Very much. That works out so well. That's so fun. So I love that you had shared this. So beyond a very demanding career, your own family at home, you have made the time to pour into a little. So big brothers, big sisters, you get paired if you're like a mentor, and it's a commitment. Like, it is not, when you feel like it, like it's they vet you. You are agreeing that you're not going to walk out of this person's life. Like, you are there as kind of their rock and stability. So how amazing that you have this little, how long have you guys been paired up?
Yeah, I think 4 years probably.
Wow.
Yeah, about 4 years in June, I think it is. I mean, she's family to me.
Yes.
We say little sister with quotes, but she tells everyone I'm her big sister. Like, she doesn't say from Big Brothers Big Sisters, like to everyone, oh, that's my big sister. She's awesome. She's so funny.
I think that's beautiful. I recently just got involved with the Boys and Girls Club of Dayton, and just very much feeling the same sentiment of, like, when you have this opportunity to pour into the youth and to young people who don't have strong mentors or don't have a lot of guidance, there's just something very fulfilling. So it's very beneficial, I feel like, too, personally. And then you get the opportunity to really make a difference in someone's life. So I love to hear that.
What's important to me is, and like why I'm so intentional in this type of work, is it starts with us. It starts with people like us, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the mentors as I grew up. Like, my 7th grade teacher, Barb Callahan. I mean, I'll just like share this with her too.
Shout out Barb Callahan.
Yeah. Like, Miss Cal I still talk to her to this day. And so if I didn't have those mentors as a kid, like, you have to just keep going. And as you get older, you need to go to the next level down, because it starts with us, right? And you're never these women in leadership roles are never gonna get there if you don't help them get there from starting at a young age.
So much truth to that. And so it's a great segue. What advice would you offer to a young person that's like, hey, Mish, I want to be a lawyer? It's the laugh and pause for me. It's the laugh and pause for me.
Being a lawyer is really hard. That's why I'm laughing and pausing. Not just like practicing law is hard, but there's a lot to it. You don't have to be perfect. Like, I wish I could tell that to myself, that, the getting down and falling, or, getting in trouble doing one stupid thing or whatever, like, it's not the end of the world, and it's not going to change you reaching your goal. It's so hard. Life is really hard, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to you don't have to get an A in every class. You don't have to get the highest score on the LSAT. I mean, maybe if, like, you want to go to Harvard, but whatever. You don't have to be perfect. Even now. I have to tell myself that often.
Yeah, it's a nice reminder for all of us, always reaching and striving. So where can listeners find you? Or if someone's got a business, it's like, I could use some legal representation, or even if they just wanted to connect with you, how would they find you? What is the firm, or how do they get connected with you?
Sure. So our firm is Perez Morris. I think if you just type in perezmorris.com, we would probably come up. Or on LinkedIn, Michelle Thompson, not Mish Thompson. You can find me on Instagram at Mish_Thompson, I think it is. I don't even know if that's my handle. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if you just Google my name, it probably would come up. And truly, whether it's work related, but honestly, even on a personal level, like, I am always open to, obviously, the youth, college kids, lawyers, people who even just kind of need to talk through. They are attorneys and they just need to vent. Call me up. We'll get coffee, we'll get lunch, we'll do a Zoom or whatever interview, coffee date as I call them. Reach out. I'm here.
And I'll just plug too and say that Michelle is the best person to get lunch or coffee dates with, or to vent. It's a very safe space, has always felt really great connecting with you. And I just feel like you have great energy. And just from the beginning, I always felt like such a good person. And I'm so glad that we've been able to stay connected, although time and space, comes and goes quickly. I just know I can always call on you if I'm starting a tanning business, or if I'm starting, I think it's the last time I really worked with you, or I'm getting ready. I've now got this idea, Michelle, that I want to write a book, but I'm like wondering the legality on, because I want it to be a memoir, like using people's names and business names. So I was like, well,
I want to do that too. So I'll do the research and I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know about that. Is there anything else that you want to share that you haven't had the opportunity to share or say, or any what's your closing? What do they say? What's the closing? What do they say at the end of the like?
Oh, my closing argument.
Closing argument. What's your closing
argument? Not a closing statement. Just if you're wondering, that's what it's called.
Closing argument, not closing statement. Closing argument, Michelle. What is it for our listeners?
Man, I can't give a whole closing argument on this. We'll be here all day. But, one thing I wanted to talk about was like just the leadership and how to be a leader. I know that was something that we would possibly talk about. You have to start with yourself and being sort of a role model and a good person and genuine. Like that's my biggest advice actually, is to be genuine in your efforts and every single thing that you do, because people will see right through you or they won't trust you. It just builds a lot. And so whether you want to have this leadership role of, I don't know, being partner or managing partner or whatever, or just to kind of guide people and help them along the way, you have to start with looking in the mirror. And I try to be genuine in all of my efforts and everything I do. So that is my biggest piece of advice as a lawyer, as a human, as a leader. I like to think that I'm a leader. But yeah, I think that's it.
Authenticity is something that I live and breathe as well. And I'm so glad that was your closing argument. You have won this case.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Women. You're on.
Wait, one day
my javelin?
I kind of want to accidentally say Your Highness because I just feel like it would be so funny.
In the courtroom,
or when I'm a judge, I want someone to say, I'm never going to be a judge, but I really want somebody to say Your Highness. That would be hilarious.
Always so funny. Very funny, as you mentioned earlier. It's why I love you so much. So, Michelle Thompson, thank you so much. Congrats on partner, and thank you for inspiring women all over to go after their goals, their dreams, and to take on these male-dominated fields and make a little difference, make a dent in it. So, thank you guys for listening. I hope you have a great day because you deserve it. Thank you.